District, and Midtown Brandywine would shift to the 8th District. For the 5th District, the primary borders is 8th and Jefferson to 8th and Union, 8th and Union to Lancaster Avenue, Lancaster Avenue to Madison Street, 8th and Jefferson to 2nd and West 2nd Street, West 2nd Street to Madison Street, and basically all of the Cool Spring and Tilton area or neighborhood would now be in the 8th District. For the 6th District, the summary of the primary border is basically Union and Lancaster to Union and Wilmington Avenue, Lancaster and Adams to Adams and Delmarva Lane. Basically with this one, the Canby Park area would now be shifted to the 7th District. It would no longer be in the 6th District. Summary of the 7th District primary border is Rising Sun Lane and Green Hill Avenue, Green Hill and 7th Street down to 7th and North DuPont, and Lancaster to Woodlawn, Union to Pennsylvania Avenue and Woodlawn, West 8th and Union to Wilmington Avenue. So basically, this area would now include Canby Park that was previously the 6th District. Also, this area will include Wawasset Park, the Highlands, 40 acres, that was all previously 8th District. And also, Little Italy and Bancroft Parkway has shifted to the 8th District. Summary of the 8th District boundaries is North DuPont Street to Delaware Avenue and Union to Pennsylvania Avenue and Union down to Woodlawn and Pennsylvania Avenue. Down to Woodlawn to 7th and Union, 8th and Baynard to Adams Street, Adams and 9th to 9th and Orange, 10th and Orange to Walnut, 10th and Walnut to 15th and Walnut. You have the South Park Drive to North DuPont Street. Basically, the Midtown Brandywine shifted from the 4th District to the 8th District. All of Cool Spring, Tilton neighborhood would now be in the 8th District, which was previously shared with the 5th District. Little Italy and Bancroft Parkway shifted from the 7th District to the 8th District. So this here is a summary of proposal number 1.
Do we have any questions from any committee members for proposal number 1? Any questions from other members of City Council? Oh, I'm sorry. Councilwoman Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the maps that we were given most recently, there aren't the numbers indicating the populations. Are we going to get that? I mean, the lines are being moved around, and in the initial maps, there were the numbers of individuals in the different blocks to show what was being subtracted and added, and I don't see it on any of these newer maps.
If you need that information, we can get that information because the Department of Elections does have that information.
Okay, thank you. And also, Mr. Chair, I have a letter to read that I sent to all council members about redistricting, and it was brought to my attention that may be a FOIA violation since it was sent to all council members and it possibly needs to be read into the record. So I was going to read it into the record if you allow.
Yes, please.
Okay, it's a pretty long letter. I'm writing, and this, I would like to make everyone aware, I sent it to all council members because of discussions that I was getting about redistricting, and so I thought it was easier just to address everyone at one time, but since I sent it to all council members because of FOIA, it probably, or I was told it probably needs to be read into the record. Okay, I'm writing this email to clarify my position on the pending redistricting proposal for the 1st District. As I understand the current proposal to remove 300+ residents from the 1st District and add them to the 3rd District. This would be accomplished by extending the 3rd District border from 26th to 27th and from Market Street to Locust. Deducting the proposed 300+ residents from the 1st District would decrease the 1st District's population to just above the minimum population required in each district. I object to the proposed reduction of population from the 1st District or to the proposed movement of the 1st District boundaries. The current 1st District population count is within the range of residents required to satisfy the recent census redistricting. Furthermore, the 1st District has the smallest standard deviation from the mean average population targeted for for each city council district. Therefore, the first district does not require any population increases or decreases. I will not agree to reducing the first district's population. I've discussed this with council members Harley, Councilmember Oliver, and Marshall. A proposed district boundary along 27th Street would intersect and divide the Speakman Greenway. This redistricting proposal would also split a community and ignore a natural geographic center. In my view, this proposal violates several principles and guidelines for redistricting. The purpose for redistricting is to adjust for population growth. The 3rd and 4th districts are expected to have more substantial population growth over the next 10 years. This expectation is based on the projected development of the new high-density residential dwellings in South Wilmington's 4th District, as well as the substantial growth in population resulting from the REACH project in the 3rd District. Over the past 10 years and since the last census was taken, the 1st District has had very little of any population growth, and nothing is projected comparable to the 3rd or 4th District's projected growth. I propose that the population required by the 3rd District to achieve the balance required by the census be deducted from the overpopulated 4th District. Continuing to negotiate using lofty reasons about my duty and sharing what you have done is not focused on the only following the law. Attempting to balance the 3rd District population by decreasing residents in the 1st District is unacceptable to me and gives the appearance of attempting to gerrymander the districts. To achieve balance and fairness, the population flow should be from where the highest population is counted to where the lowest population is counted. Therefore, rather than the 1st District population, not boundaries should not be changed. I hope this clarifies my position, and I don't have to discuss this again. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And just for clarity, which proposal is your letter or your concerns?
Well, at the
regarding?
time, this was right after the last meeting. At the time, it looked more like Proposal 1, but I think they've altered it now.
Michelle?
I just want to just clarify for the record is that the last meeting there was preliminary proposals. So the official proposals that have been submitted here is the one that was just presented was proposal number 1. There's going to be proposal number 2 and proposal number 3. I believe there might have been discussions, amongst some colleagues about suggestions that they might have. But there is a recommendation that will impact the 1st District, which will be addressed in proposal number 3.
Okay, but 1st District is being impacted in all 3 proposals, correct?
Okay. Proposal number 1 was just discussed, and with proposal number 1, yes, there were some changes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right,
And if I can just state too, is with proposal number 1, everyone has a copy of it as well, is that the 1st District is still is within balance, is within the 5% range. I just wanted to state that for the public as well.
Right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Darby?
Yes, thank you. For this proposal specifically, I wanted to make note that it was stated that the east side is completely within the 3rd District, and that is not true. It stops at 9th Street. So this proposal was purposefully I did not include east side, the full east side. My previous proposal, I didn't know it was preliminary from the last meeting. I thought it would be included. I would have 2 maps tonight from my map from last time. And then this map, I thought it would be 2 maps. So this was supposed to be 2 different ideas or 2 different proposals that I had. So the first proposal I had included east side going into the 3rd District. This proposal does not include east side in the 3rd District. This actually includes east side being divided, some parts of the riverfront and the 8th District all being divided, since division is okay. So this map is like my map 2. It is not my first map. So I guess the next meeting, I will make sure that the first one that I had from, I guess, preliminary proposals is included. But I just wanted to make that noted that this map does not include east side, the whole part.
Okay, thank
Can
you.
I just,
Michelle?
yeah, I just want to clarify, is Councilman Darby, it was shared with you that when you did submit your proposal, that it was out of balance, and you was asked to submit another proposal. Then you submitted proposal 2, which was this one here. So that was the one we went forward with, because your first proposal was out of balance, meaning one of the districts was at 10%. And we asked you, did you want to submit another one? And you said yes, and it was this here. And the reason I said that the east side was all included is we had mapped in the neighborhoods, and it had the east side all on one side. So that's the reason I said that. So not trying to mislead the community, or I don't want to
Yeah,
mislead
I
the
didn't want
council
them to be
person.
misleaded. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman McCoy?
Thank you. I'm sorry. I'm actually looking at this from Zoom from my phone. So if you can go back to my district again, because I wanted to see where these lines were. I did hear and actually see a bit of the top portion has been basically altered, but I wanted to see exactly where the rest of changes were going to happen, because that was actually a lot of the 6th district, and I wanted to see where the other portion of that number is going to come from.
Chris, if you can zoom in a little bit more on the 6th district, if that's possible. So, Councilman McCoy, so if you're looking at this map right now, you would see that the Canby Park area would now be within the 7th district. You would see that the main borderline there, so it's more in a, I don't want to say, it's almost rectangular, almost, but not quite.
Okay, so basically, it seems to me, looking at this, that there's no really give and take, but actually more so just a decrease. The top of the district has been taken off, and then also from Lancaster Avenue all the way, so Lancaster Avenue has also been taken as well. Does that look like? I'm trying to see whether or not, is that my border or no?
Yes, one side of Lancaster Avenue, yes. That main yellow line is Lancaster.
I do still keep Lancaster Avenue as a corridor one side. Okay.
Yes.
It's just the whole top portion has actually been taken off. So now I would like to know what my actual number is then, because when I looked at Canby initially, that was such a large number, and I realized that I did not want to sever any type of community. So I had opted not to mess with that. So I just wanted to know, what is the number then? What is my actual number going to be if this was to be the map that we use? Because that's a lot.
Well, if you look at
I haven't had any conversation.
okay, the proposal that's out there with the numbers, so for the 6th district, it would put you at 8,559. So you would be at a negative 2.97%, but you would be within the range. Councilman Phil.
All right. I said, well, you can move on. I'm like, I just wanted to see exactly what was going on with my boundaries. So thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Field?
Hi. I just want to state for the record that I'm totally opposed to this proposal for obvious reasons, and I'll just leave it at that. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, did you want to recognize? I didn't know whether we marked him present or not.
Okay, yes, if we can recognize Councilman Field in attendance, thank you. Any other questions from anyone in council chambers? Seeing no questions from the public, we're going to proceed to the next proposal.
Mr. Chair, just give me 1 minute. I just want to flip the map so I can put up the next proposal.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Wilmington proposal number 2 was inadvertently submitted, and that's not going to be considered for this meeting tonight. So the next proposal is Wilmington proposal number 3. And with Wilmington proposal number 3, it basically keeps a lot of the boundaries that's already intact, but there's some changes for each district. So I just want to go over what those proposed changes are. And I believe Department of Elections now has proposal number 3 up on the screen for the public. For District 1, moving from the 1st District to the 3rd District, 26th and Market Street to 27th and Market, and from 26th and Locust to 27th and Locust, that would impact 311, but it would still keep the 1st District in balance. The 2nd District, there's no proposed changes, and the 2nd District is within balance. For the 3rd District, as I mentioned before, from the 1st District to the 3rd District, you move 26th and Market Street to 27th and Market, and from 26th and Locust to 27th and Locust. That would add additional 311 to the 3rd District. From the 4th District to the 3rd District, from 9th and Walnut Street to 9th and Market, and from 15th and Walnut to 15th and Market, that would add additional 564 to the 3rd District. And if you look at Lombard and Locust to Taylor and 9th, that would add additional 302 to the 3rd District from the 4th District. And I just want to state that the 3rd District was one of the most districts that was impacted, as well as the 4th District. Next is the 4th District. If you look at the 4th District, if you move the 4th from District 4 to District 5, if you move 8th and 9th in Adams to 9th in Tatnall, that will impact a reduction of 883 from the 4th District. If you look at 2nd and West to 2nd and Tatnall, that will be a reduction of 291 from the 4th District to the 5th District. And if you look at from the 4th to the 3rd, as I mentioned earlier, 9th and Walnut Street to 9th and Market, and from 15th and Walnut to 15th and Market, that would be a reduction of 564 from the 4th District. And if you look at Lombard and Locust and Taylor and 9th, that would be a reduction of 302 from the 4th District to the 3rd District. And the 4th District was the one who had like the most numbers, so the most changes was done between the 4th and the 3rd District. Next is the 5th District. If moving from the 5th District to the 7th District, if you look at 2nd and Lancaster to move that to 2nd and Broome, that would be a reduction of 697 from the 5th District. And as I mentioned previously, moving from the 4th District to the 5th District, 8th and 9th of Adams to 9th and Tatnall, that would add 883. And from 2nd and West to 2nd and Tatnall, that would add 291 to the 5th District. For the 6th District, there was no changes. For the 7th District, if you move the 5th District to the 7th District, as I previously mentioned, 2nd and Lancaster to 2nd and Broome, that would add additional 697. From the 8th District to the 7th District, if you look at Scott and Pennsylvania Avenue and Broome 11th Street, that would add additional 157 to the 7th District. And for the 8th District, as I just mentioned before, Scott and Pennsylvania Avenue and Broome 11th, that will be a reduction of 157. And with all of these changes, everyone will be within their deviation of 5%. And this is also a balanced proposal.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from any committee members first? Councilmember Darby?
Yes, just my comment or feedback for the map. One of my biggest issues is that east side isn't, it's divided still. And between the 3rd and 4th. Also, over in the 2nd and 3rd District, North Market Street is still a boundary line. And then also a lot of these shapes look like they're not compact. So best practices for redistricting, as the ACLU and the League of Women Voters already explained to the redistricting committee and to council, is that for the best way to draw lines is to make them as compact as possible. And a lot of the lines are not compact when you look at the other side, and they can be. So it's not like something that can't be done. It's something that is just hasn't been done for some reason, and they're not compact. We have divided communities, and North Market Street is still a boundary. So those are some of my feedback or thoughts on the maps.
Okay, thank you. Any other committee members? Any other council members have any comments? Councilmember Gray?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure this is the correct map, and I can't see that one up there. But in the first district, when you come down to 27th Street, does the line go down Speakman to 25th Street and then come back up to 27 and then go over and then go back down to 26 again? Is that the line for, is that the, if so, I want to know why they did that little cutout right there.
So, so this here is the map here.
Right.
Did
Can't
you
see
want
that
to?
one from this angle. Can you say when it
Yes,
comes
it's the
down
same-
27th Street?
Did you want to come up? I mean, that's the reason we wanted to be comfortable so everybody can look. I mean, we want to make it more. That's the reason we wanted y'all in the chambers. So this here is your first district here.
Okay, right
This
here,
here's
why is that
market.
little cutout right there? See that cutout?
Okay, so this cutout, what you're talking about? I'm sorry, the cutout that you're talking about, that is the the green pasture of
For
Speakman Place. That's
okay.
what that is.
And then it goes back up and then back. What's this cutout then? It's another cutout.
That is
See,
not a,
they go up, it goes up and then goes down and then comes back.
yes, that's the boundary.
I know, but I'm asking, what's the point of that irregular line to go up? And I understand that's a greenway, but right here it goes, that it cuts that little square out right there. That used to be my boundary, and it makes a square on top of
Well, if you, the thing is, if you go out all the way to the Governor Prince Boulevard, I believe that's additional 318. And if you would take the 318 and the 311, I mean, it would put things out of balance.
it. Okay, well, just give me what the number is for that little cutout.
Yes, and we
It
do
just
have
seems
that.
It's real irregular. Like
Okay, sure.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councilmember Harley?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So first of all, I want to say that, number one, the proposal that we just reviewed, first of all, this proposal definitely has support from our local community. We have been reviewing these maps. We've been reviewing this data since August. All these maps have been available online. There have been meetings with civic association leaders, community leaders, stakeholders, district council members, at-large council members, and all those that make up the community. This did not happen overnight, and there has been a lot of conversations as it relates to these numbers and how we need to look at redistricting. Now, we all know that the Newcastle County, they had guidelines that they followed, and even though our charter does not require us to follow those guidelines, these particular guidelines were followed. No communities were divided at all. As a matter of fact, most of the communities have remained intact. Their guidelines were to keep communities contiguous as it related to community interests, as it related to cultural interests, as it related to how communities intermingled. So when you look at this particular map, boundaries also were considered, natural boundaries. The first boundary that I want to mention is on 9th Street on the east side. As it has already been mentioned, the 4th district had the most increase in population. The 3rd district had the most decrease in population. So when we look at the boundary on 9th Street on the east side, it makes good common sense to move numbers over into the 3rd district because, again, the 3rd district had a major decrease in numbers. It was already mentioned, 564 residents were moved over into the 3rd district between Market and Walnut, 9th and 16th. This gives the 3rd district an opportunity to be able to start moving more into some economic development versus the 3rd district going further south on the east side. This allows them to have that opportunity and access to more economic development. Then over on 9th Street to Taylor, Lumber to Locust, 202 numbers went over into the 3rd district. And all of these particular residents pretty much are compacted, and they have a common interest and cultural interest here, other than the areas that are more commercial and the economic area. Then over on the west side is a natural boundary, which is 8th Street, which we went between 8th and 9th, Adams to Tatnall, which again is a common community, and no community was divided there. We moved 883 residents from one side of the street to the other side of the street. So how that's dividing a community, I don't know. But nonetheless, then we went to the next boundary, which is West Street, between 2nd and 9th, West and Tatnall. When you look at all these boundaries, these are natural boundaries, community and cultural commonality and interests. These are the guidelines also that have been recommended. So again, there were no communities divided. There were community feedback with the MPC, with the city committee. This information was presented, and there was no objections to any of these particular requests that have been made within this particular map. So tonight, I would like to share that these numbers put this particular, us in compliance completely, as it has already been stated, that we are in compliance in the 4th district. But with the recommendations have moved a lot of numbers out of the 4th district, and we are very, very low on the negative 5% deviation. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Oliver.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think Councilwoman Harley said it all. But I would like to say that map 3 is quite compact, especially since there is no space to be had in the city boundaries. The minimum number was 8380. The maximum was 9260. And based on map 3, everyone is in compliance with them numbers. As she stated, the city party, we met with the Democratic City Party Chair, Ms. Cassandra Marshall, and some other 3rd Ward members, met with civic associations, met with residents in the city period from the 3rd district. We went over several maps, and this was the map that everyone was in consensus for. So I'd like to thank the committee members who've really been engaged with this process, and I really appreciate the committee's, all the committee members' input. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councilmember Darby, did you have a comment?
Yes, I would love to know if the organizations that we invited in the beginning, like the League of Women Voters, ACLU, and NAACP, if they are involved in our process at all to making sure that the maps that we're creating are equitable, compact, and giving feedback to us other than council people drawing maps. on their own. So in regards to community, the community has been engaged, and the community, some of the things on this map are against. So like community leaders, people who are on the ground doing grassroots work. There are a lot of problematic things with this map that a lot of community people that I have spoke to who have issues with this map, and also issues in regards to, I think it's really important that we go back to the professionals, the people who are the experts in this, to give us feedback and recommendations on what we're doing, instead of just having council people with no experience just drawing maps. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Harley.
Oh, yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to say that, again, this was not decided upon with just council members. I'm not going to repeat again those individuals that weighed in. I believe I said community members, MPC, presidents, and members. Those are community people. In addition to people from the different communities as well, Wilmington City committees, those are not council members. Those are people that live in a community, and there are stakeholders in the community, and I respect other people's opinions in terms of who they want to reach out to and connect with. I respect that highly. But again, most of the people that weighed in on this particular map, again, were local community people from the 4th district, the 3rd district, from all districts, all of our council members. And these are the people that work in the community. The council members are the ones that reach out to the community. We go to civic association meetings. I go to homeowners association meetings to listen to the people and to hear their voice. And that's what I've been doing since August, listening to the community, listening to stakeholders, and listening to other individuals that have done this work before. So, Mr. Chair, this proposal has the support of the local community, the 4th and the 3rd districts, as it has been stated tonight, are the most impacted based upon the census data. I have reached out again to council members at large, as well as other stakeholders. Many of the city's current borders remain unchanged. They are contiguous. The community culture has remained the same. I have reviewed many of the communities as well as the population and demographics data. And based upon that information, I am confident that this is a viable plan for consideration. So, Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion for recommendation of WILM-020, proposal number 3, for consideration. I would like to take a motion for that.
Second.
Yeah, just before we do that, just want to make sure there aren't any other comments from any council members.
We have a member from the public.
Okay.
Sure.
We do have a member from the public that would like to comment. What's their name?
Dwayne Benson.
Dwayne Benson.
Thank you, Council President and members of the City Council. My name is Dwayne Benson. I'm staff attorney at the ACLU of Delaware. I came prepared to give general comments about this process this evening, but as this conversation has unfolded, I feel like I have even more work to do. I know that I spoke with Councilwoman Harley at our 4th Ward Democrats meeting, and in full disclosure, I am a member of the 4th Ward Democrats, and I'm missing their happy hour right now so I can attend this meeting with you all. But on October 16th, when Councilwoman Harley was at our meeting, the map that has been proposed this evening was not even made yet available for the 4th Ward Democrats to review that map. My partner is a member of the Civic Association of Midtown Brandywine. That group has also not been yet provided an opportunity at this proposal. And I give those two anecdotes as examples that I do not yet believe that our civic association and community member groups have yet been given the proper opportunity to provide feedback on these proposals that were just released on the website very recently. And we know that these drafts, as they are currently formed, do divide communities of interest. Communities of interest as defined by civic association groups. I had the opportunity to place in the chat before it was disabled a list of all of our civic associations within the city of Wilmington, as well as a map. And I really encourage our council members to rely upon that list and that map as they draw these districts, and to use those maps to guide them, with the interests of communities of interest being the #1 priority, other than contiguity and equal population, and not being racially discriminatory. The current council map, as it is drawn today, divides every single district divides a community of interest as a civic association, except for the 6th district. But every single other district currently divides a community of interest. And I encourage the council to take this opportunity. This happens once every decade, to look at your map, look at the civic association's boundaries as they exist today, and empower those communities by uniting them under a single community, under a single district, each civic association within represented by a single representative district. This can be done. I have done that. I have sent a proposal to Councilwoman Darby, and I hope that she has shared that with her colleagues. I'm not tied to any proposal. I just wanted to not say to do something that would be impossible to be done. It can be done, and it should be done. I will note that the most divided communities right now are Little Italy and Cool Springs and Tilton. Both of those civic association boundaries are split between 3 different districts right now. I think the Councilwoman Harley's proposal helps that a little bit and only divides them, I think, between 2 districts. But again, we've not yet had time to review these fully, and we should get that input. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Was there somebody else? On 3rd District NPC.
Okay, great, very good. Thank you very much for taking my comment. My name is James.
Oh, we can't hear you, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Oh, okay. Did you hear my first part?
No, we did not.
Okay. Thank you very much for taking my comment and allowing me to speak here. I'd like to first say the gentleman that just spoke, I really do appreciate that. You summed it up because, first of all, the councilwoman for the 3rd District stated that she reached out to the NPCs and the Civic Association. That's flat out not true. Okay, that is not true. I'm the president of the Vanderbilt Avenue Civic Association, and my information is within the city's website. And I know the Northeast Civic Association and Angels of Hope has not been reached. So therefore, we do definitely want to be a part of that and have our input with that. Okay, now as far as the district maps is concerned, personally, I think this district 020 that Councilman just mentioned, number 3, I like that proposal because I like that particular map. The first map will be totally, including South Bridge, disenfranchising already established civic associations within the 3rd District. And as far as Councilwoman Darby is concerned, the Market Street has always been the boundary. That divides the city in half from the east to west, from Martin Luther King Boulevard all the way out to the end of the city. So Market Street has always been the boundaries for the city east and west. The other thing is too, with that map, the first map, I see a great divide there. I see nepotism involved, and then I see gerrymandering involved with that as well. So I would like for that to be taken a look at, and that is basically it. But you know, it needs to be taken a look at and redone. And then as far as the city councilwoman that with the 3rd District, she does need to reach out to the civic associations and the NPC and communicate. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thank you very much. I just want to thank everyone from the public who did give us their feedback. Councilmember Oliver.
Thank you, Mr. President. As I stated before, I didn't get a chance to speak to Jan, but I did speak to some other individuals from such as Sandra Ben. I spoke to several other ones. I'm not going to get in that, but I do I would like to say that it was a motion put on the floor and I seconded.
Councilmember Harley, do you have any comments?
My last comment is that one, this map that we're looking at now was the map that was presented when I presented for the Wilmington City Council meeting 2 weeks ago. This is the map. That is the map. So I'm not sure what that's about. And not only that, but I had the opportunity to speak to residents in Mr. Dwayne's community the night of the progressive dinner. So he wasn't there that night, but I did have the opportunity to speak to some of them. So I just wanted to make sure that's on record. And most of the civic associations are mainly contiguous. Most of those civic associations, is there work to be done? Yes, there's work to be done, but for the most part, they are contiguous, and I would like to remain with the motion that has been recommended. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councilman Spadola.
Thank you, Council President. I'm going to support the motion. I just want to state why. To me, for the public to really provide their input, we need to provide one good map for them to rally around, such as what the Senate and the House recently did. If we kept throwing, 3 or 4 different maps at the public every few weeks, it'll make for a totally incoherent process. So I think, this is the best map we've seen. It's not perfect. Ideally, once we get it out of committee, if it passes, we'll tinker with it. And I think it's the best path forward. So I'm looking forward to supporting the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Darby.
Yes, I think we should hold off until November to make a recommendation to council. Community input is important, and we should have that. And making a recommendation to council, I don't know what the rush is. Why are we pushing to do this tonight? It's October. We can do it in November when we have a better map to be able to present and argue after the community has true input on the map. So that's just my recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Oliver.
Thank you, Mr. President. There was a motion on the floor and I seconded. There was a motion on the floor and I seconded.
Yes, but I wanted to give all council members and the community an opportunity to speak.
No, that's Robert Rules of Order, though. The motion came and I seconded, so we do
But
have.
I have to accept the motion. Thank you. Councilwoman Cabrera.
Thank you, Mr. President. I echo the sentiments of Councilman Spadola, even Councilwoman Darby, in that this is the best map that we've seen, and I'm okay with voting it out and giving the public the time to really look at it and give input, as long as that means that we're open to being able to, as he said, tinker, make adjustments from what we hear, because obviously it has to be approved by all of council, because I would like to see some forward motion. At the same time, I also do feel that, we only do this once every 10 years, and the two speakers, Mr. Benson and my friend over there from Vanderbilt Avenue, I agree that, I think more discussion with the community, having it out there, because again, we got these in August, we had our first meeting, and we've had 2 or 3, this is our 3rd meeting, and we've met with staff. I know we've had a lot of meetings and we've had conversations amongst each other. I would love to see the process move forward so we don't have to keep doing this through the holidays or anything like that. But I will support moving it out of this committee as long as we take into consideration the input of the public and further input from the council members. That is my concern, and if that's something that we can be assured would work, that we would do, then I'm forward to getting it out of here, because I don't want to be rushed, and I don't think we should rush through this either.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman McCoy.
Thank you, Mr. President. So my question basically is, I did take a look at the other map. I had already seen that map. The question is there any other? Was just those 2 maps that we have looking at are just the 2 that were under consideration?
Councilwoman McCoy, yes, map proposal number 1 and map proposal number 3, because it was stated earlier that proposal number 2 was inadvertently submitted.
Okay, thank you. That's what. All right. So I just wanted to be clear on that. Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, if I can just make one comment, because a couple people had, a couple of council colleagues had mentioned about the public being able to have a voice in this process. We do want it open to the public, so all these meetings are open to the public. We did state that the next meeting, it is a public hearing. I mean, the public does come in. I mean, we want them here at all the meetings. We want them here today. The next meeting is going to be publicly advertised. If proposal 1 or proposal number 3 moves forward, the public still has an opportunity to speak out. If there needs to be one of these proposals need to be tweaked at that meeting, I mean, that will be done, I mean, as well. So I just wanted just to make sure for transparency that everyone knows that, regardless whether that's proposal number 1 or proposal number 3.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so I do want to make sure that we get this process right. It was mentioned earlier that we only do this once every 10 years. I don't want to rush through it. I also don't want to prolong it if it's not necessary. There were some very good comments made from the public this evening. I just want to make sure that we get it right. It's not about the holiday season. It's not about us. It's about the public, and I want to make sure that they feel that they are a part of this process. Not saying that they haven't been made a part of this process, but I just want to make sure that we get it right. I know we have until February to get it right. And if we have to take until February, I think that we should. If we don't, I don't think that we have to. But I do want to make sure that we are getting this right. This is our watch. And again, it's only once every 10 years. Councilwoman Harley, did you have a comment? I saw you raise your hand.
Yes, as Ms. Bass Knight just said, this is a recommendation, and the public will have an opportunity to weigh in, and we will have an opportunity to continue to get feedback. This is just a recommendation. So I just wanted to make that clear so we can continue to move on. Unfortunately, individuals have not been engaged for whatever reason. We've been announcing it. It's been announced since August. We've had the maps out there. Those on this committee have been doing our due diligence and trying to get this work done. We have 70,000 people in the city of Wilmington. And we basically, this is basically, you have to take your time to do this work. And for those of us that have been involved since August, talking and meeting and reaching out, it hasn't been rushed at all. It's just that people have not been engaged. And again, this is a recommendation, and of course, we all want to get it right. We want to continue to hear those that maybe, for whatever reason, they haven't participated. We do want to hear them. But again, this is a recommendation to move forward so we can continue to move forward. Since August, there has not been a lot of engagement, unfortunately. So again, Mr. Chairman, I'm totally open to this recommendation moving forward and being open to our community members and civic association leaders that maybe have not been as engaged as they could be. So thank you.
All right, thank you. I guess my concern is that if we do move forward with either proposal, and I know that tweaks can be made from the community and from council members and from committee members, but what's the likelihood of that happening if we move forward with either one? I don't see that being a reality, honestly. Maybe I'm just not seeing the bigger picture. But if we move forward with a proposal, most likely that proposal is going to move forward. I'm not sure if that's the route that I'm comfortable with taking right now, honestly, mainly because of the comments that were just made from the public, and if they weren't engaged in the beginning, but they are now, and that's no fault of anyone's, but we're asking for engagement, so I don't think that we should say that they weren't engaged in the beginning, so they can't be as engaged now. So honestly, I'm not really comfortable with
Mr. President.
with moving forward with any proposal at this time, just because
Mr.
I want to make sure that we get it right.
Mr. President,
Yes, ma'am.
I was Ms. Bassett just said that, whichever one, they're gonna still make, even with Jan, he has had a chance to look at it, and he's just saying he just expressed how he felt about both of them, so, and I think even the other guy with Michelle, what Councilman Hardy's saying, it's not like she hasn't been over there, so for you to say no one hasn't been engaged, and I think they will come up here, and as she stated, the public's gonna come up here, and whatever we need to critique, I think it's gonna be critiqued.
I didn't say that. I don't think I said that no one's been engaged. I said that I was referring to what Councilwoman Harley said, that there hasn't been as much engagement from the start, but we are continuously asking for engagement. And if community members are just now starting to be engaged, I'm okay with that. I don't want to penalize them for that. Councilwoman Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just had a question. So are we in retrospect, do we want to have multiple proposals for the community to review at one time? Or are we saying that we want them to review one at a time? I think that's where my confusion is that are we trying to move forward with one, right, that the community can digest and go through vigorously through the public hearing process?
Mm-hmm.
Or are we saying that we want multiple to go to a public hearing process in order for them to digest those maps, and then we choose one from there? I'm just trying to understand how we want to move forward.
Mr.
Sure.
Chair, based upon what you just said, and based upon what I just heard from Councilwoman Harley, her motion was on proposal number 3. So let's say that hypothetically proposal number 3 was to be moved forward for consideration. There would be a public hearing, okay? Because it's not like an ordinance yet, so there will be a public hearing on the proposal. So say, for instance, I'm someone from the community. I don't like that it divides, the east side. So I'm going to, I come in here and I can offer like my feedback. I can also offer some tweaks to that proposal and for this committee to make some suggestions to it. So if I'm from the ACLU and I want to come in, I want to make comments like at that next meeting, all that is going to be talked about, and if something needs to be tweaked, all that is going to come out at that meeting.
If I can follow up to that.
Yes, ma'am.
So if that's the case, I'm fine with moving with the one, but I think as you said, President, and others have been saying currently, is that we want to make sure the community and the partners and the individuals who have conversation, at least to digest this one map, and for them to give the information. I think it's our duty and our responsibility to make those changes once they've said their feedback to us. Now, if we don't do that, that's our fault. That's right. So I think to me, that's the logical step, but I could be wrong. But I'm just, trying to make it for simplicity in regards to how we move forward so that the community continues to be engaged in the process, but also has something that they're engaging in fully so that they can understand how the things need to be changed or moved or lines need to be changed. So that's just my comment, but thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Just want to remind everyone to please mute your microphones, especially those who are virtual. Michelle, did you have another follow-up?
No, I was just going to mention about what happened in 2010 with the census, but I just go ahead.
Okay, Councilwoman Darby.
Yes, I want to just add to that if we do hold off on one, are we able to have multiple at the public hearing, or it has to just be one map? Is that like something that has to happen where it has to be one, or it could be 2, 3, 4, 5, or however many maps present at the public hearing?
The goal is to get to one map. But if there is like concerns, what needs to happen is a report would need to have to be filed, with the clerk as far as what that map is, so that, that does need to be determined, at some point, for when a public hearing happens, so that, it can be publicly notified so that people know what those what that map is. So, I just want to mention that. And then I'm also going to defer to Zach. Did you want to add anything to that, or what is your thoughts?
No, I was going to say, so it's mainly a policy question like you answered. As far as the parliamentarian side of it, it's the motion is seeking to just move
Right.
the third proposal. But like you said, as far as policy discussions can be had on the 17th. There's nothing to say that, but that won't happen.
Excuse me. So speaking to the parliamentary, could you clear that up? Because it's just a suggestion for map 3, and we're going to have, if Councilman Darby wants to come in and make some adjustments, but we have to, it's our duty as a committee to, that's why we're elected as a committee, to get one map on the floor. And then, like you said, Darby, if we want to come and make some changes, anybody from the public can come and make changes, but you don't normally have 4 or 5 maps on the floor. So from a parliamentary point, Mr. Parliamentary, could you repeat what you just said as far as the motion?
Yes, council member, and maybe I could have been clear. I'm just talking about, as far as parliamentarian procedure, the motion is to move one of the maps currently before the committee tonight to the next hearing. That's just the comment I was making. As far as I was deferring to Marshall, who said policy-wise, discussions can be had on the next meeting.
Right.
But as far as parliamentarian tonight, I don't want to confuse anyone. That would be, the motion is to move the third.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Darby?
Yeah, so to clarify, I wasn't asking specifically about the motion that's happening right now. I was asking, like, in general, do we have to have one map? Can we have 2 maps, 3 maps for the community to look at the public hearings? Is it that's my question. My question really isn't about the motion. My question is it like set in stone we can only have one map at the next public hearing?
Marshall?
I think Councilwoman Harley had her.
Oh, Councilwoman Harley.
So our duty is to make a recommendation. The recommendation is not to say that this is the perfect map. The recommendation is to say that this is the map that we would like to continue to have this conversation. And if the community comes, first of all, the community needs to be made aware, point them to where the maps are, number one, and just say, for instance, if they look at the map and make a decision, when they come to the meetings, they will begin to share their input. So whether it's 1 map or 3 maps, it's about them looking and reviewing a map and bringing their input to be considered. That's pretty much the way this works. So we're making a recommendation for 1 map to be considered. That's the bottom line. It's not the final map. It's the recommendation for us to continue this conversation. And again, our work is to make a recommendation, and that's what we're doing tonight. That's what this motion is about. Not that it's perfect, not that this is going to be the one and only way that this map is going to end up.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Darby.
So that still didn't answer my question. I think that you're missing the point. I understand what the next public hearing is for. My question is, does there have to be 1 map, or can there be multiple maps at a public hearing? That's my question. My question isn't about the motion. My question isn't about what's going to happen, about community input. My question is, do we have to have 1 map, or can we have 2 or 3 maps? That's simply my question.
And Councilwoman Darby, may I
No, go
answer the
ahead. Yes.
questions? Multiple maps are able to be presented.
Okay, thank you. That was it.
And I just want to be clear that when I say that multiple maps are, can be presented, I mean, it also has to be like a full map, meaning something does have to be filed with the clerk. And when that information is filed, it needs to be, all the boundaries do have to be legally, written out. So I just wanted to make sure. But I do want to say that, once again, at this public hearing, that's the reason I wanted to say, this is not the last meeting. This here is just a recommendation. And yes, at the next meeting, another map could be submitted, or another proposal.
Yes.
Councilwoman Darby.
Yes, thank you for answering that question. And the recommendation does not have to be made tonight. It could be made at the next one in November. It could be made at the next one in December. It can be made at the next one in December. I want that to be clear, that tonight, as our duty is not to make a recommendation tonight. We do not have a deadline. we do not have a something set in stone in a charter or a code that says we have to make a recommendation tonight. That is part of our duty as the redistricting committee, but is that our duty for tonight? Is there a deadline stating that on October 28th, there has to be a recommendation made by the redistricting committee? I just want to confirm those things out.
I'm going to let, thank you, Councilwoman Darby. I see that our Chief of Staff, Daniel Walker, wants to comment.
Hi, President Congo. Yes, this is Daniel Walker, Chief of Staff for City Council. Councilwoman Darby, to your question, there is no exact deadline that states a recommendation. However, it has been the express desire of some committee members to make a form, the exact map that would deadline per code or charter for this, but it's the desire of some of the committee members to have a single map or a standardized map to have